Hello and welcome. This is NewsX. This is the special sports and cricket show. I'm Sunil Yashkalra, joining you right from the studios, right in the heart of Delhi. Now we've got three of the best guests who are going to be talking about the first semi-final between South Africa and New Zealand. But guess what? Cricket fans, it's a bonanza time. The moment we've all been waiting for a long time. And guess what? We've got some of the best players playing in this game. Satish, my guest, who's the former Gulf News sports editor, joins me. David Brooks, the English West Indian supporter. I don't know whether he listens to Beatles or Jimi Hendrix or well, he's got a favorite playlist on the thing. John Niembu. John Niembu, the man who took 5 wickets on his debut, got AB de Villiers out. But that's a different story, different day, different era. Welcome back, gentlemen, onto this first semi-final show. Happy to have David Brooks. David Brooks, are you padded up for the first question?
Ready to go, Sunil. Nice to hear your voice.
Absolutely. David Brooks, what do you think of the overall last 4 weeks of cricket bonanza that happened before we get into the semi-final part?
I think it's got more and more enthralling as we go on. I mean, it's been, I think, a very successful competition. The associate nations enlivened the first week because they did a lot better than people thought, and then we've had some really interesting contests right up until the England, the last one between West Indies and India. But for me, the standout team has been South Africa. So I'm really looking forward to this afternoon because they're the one unbeaten side in the competition, and they've been the most impressive. So yeah, I think it's all set up very nicely.
Well, absolutely. The South African team. John Niembu, we've had discussions on South Africa, and we know what they are capable of. Do you think they're a well-oiled machine, just like Terminator?
Yes, I think South Africa has, like I said at the beginning of the tournament, that they look the part. They've been looking the part for a few years now in all forms of the game, and it's high time they win a major white ball tournament. And I think this is the time that they could. I say could because as we get into this phase of the tournament, it's not about how good you've been. It's about how well you turn up on the day. And today is such a day. They're playing against New Zealand. New Zealand, the last time I think those two met in the semi-finals of the 50 over comp, New Zealand got the better of them. So New Zealand can look to that, and South Africa can also look to want to overturn the last tables and guarantee themselves into yet another a World Cup final.
Well, absolutely. Talking about a brilliant body line and the cricket line that we're talking about, S.A. Spacestra, Nigiri, Bosch and Jansen have combined 34 wickets, aka Satish. Satish, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you.
Let me just ask you, how's the situation there in Gulf?
See, we are quite okay. I think the government is doing everything to keep us safe and secure. So, excepting those odd ones where after the interceptions, some things fall down and create a little issues here and there. But generally, it's been pretty almost near normal lifestyle. So we don't actually know much unless otherwise we hear a noise of interceptions and.
Okay. We'll call it the reverse swing once in a while, the toe-crushing yorker that you get once in a while. But that's a different story for a different day. 34 wickets between the three fast bowlers. Satish, do you think it's one of the lethal new ball attack you would find?
Yes, of course. I have to bring a quote here. The batsmen win you matches, but it's the bowlers that win you the cups or the tournaments.
Well,
so South Africa has got the full firepower. So they are steaming in full clip. In that sense, South Africa are like a well-oiled machine, and actually the biggest, I would say, revelation in this tournament was Ngidi coming out and bowling those slower ones and the multiple slower ones, the variations that he has come up with. Actually, that must have caught many batsmen across the many other teams by surprise. He was a revelation really in this tournament. So that has added to the already existing firepower. So South African bowling looks even more menacing than it was in the past.
Absolutely, even more menacing. David Brooks, what's happening with England? What is your view about it, which is the match which is going to happen tomorrow? But what's with the pace bowling? What do you think of it, of the current match?
Well, yeah, the pace, as far as England are concerned, for tomorrow, yeah, it would be a brave person to say, to back England in the sense that India will be the favourites, it's home territory and all the rest of it. In terms of their pace bowling, Jofra Archer has been taking wickets up front, so England will be taking some heart from that. But only two of England batsmen really in form. That's Harry Brook and Jacks, coming in at number 7. So I would say that India firm favourites for that one. In terms of the pace bowling on show today, I can't help but agreeing with my two colleagues here that South African bowling has been incredibly impressive. And where did Ngidi learn to disguise his slower ball so effectively? It's been one of the standout performances of the tournament.
Well, there's a chink in the armour for the South African. Let me read out two stats and get John Yimbu here. South Africa's late order collapse at 71 strike rate versus New Zealand's strong 137 strike rate is big enough, and suddenly SA struggles against the left arm pace of 129 strike rate versus New Zealand's dominance of 194 in the same category. Do you think somewhere down the line South Africa doesn't have great tail? A. B. The left arm bowling, whether it's spin or pace, they get into trouble. John Yimbu.
I think the numbers for me at the moment just go out the window, because South Africa has been dominant regardless of what attack they face. So in the deficiencies that they've had with the left armers, they've managed to capitalize on the other bowlers. So that's how you generally wanna construct your batting innings. You might not be as fluent as you'd like in all corners of the game, but when you are at your weak point, you manage it, and when you're at your strong point, you actually generally have to capitalize. So that's what South Africa has done. They've done so well in all phases of the game, be it bat, be it ball, be it fielding. So those stats for South Africa will not really matter to them. They just want to go out there and try and execute another perfect game to ensure that they go to the next stage of the tournament. And New Zealand are also a dark horse. I remember we spoke about how they're always there and thereabouts in tournament cricket. They've made another semi-final. They're looking at an opportunity to make a final, and it's weird how very few people talk about New Zealand. They always manage to get themselves in these positions without anyone saying they're favorites, without anyone saying they're playing well or playing badly, but they just go about their business quietly. So it will be a test, like I said earlier, about which team turns up on the day and which team manages to capitalize and win the game.
Well, absolutely. It's an interesting point that you make, that stats at this stage don't matter really too much, but we've got to go by the prediction and looking at the current state on your television right now. Let me get David Brooks very quickly, and then I'll go on to AKS Satish. David Brooks, the pitch looks absolutely explosive. There have been 6 matches of this World Cup on this turf right now. It's a high scoring, it's an explosive scoring. You go on to around 10 per over, then suddenly the spinners come in, and they are like the pythons, they kind of constrict you and slow you down, and then suddenly at 10 average of a 10 rain per over, you suddenly go into the explosive part. Do you think it's going to be the same today?
Well, I think it will follow a similar pattern, and you have to say which team is best equipped to deal with those conditions. And again, I would say it's South Africa, because you look at that middle order: Rickleton, Brevis, Miller, Stubbs. That's about as strong as middle order as South Africa have ever put out in a T20 international. And Maharaj has shown that he's capable of keeping things quiet. Glenn Phillips is one of the interesting players for New Zealand, can be capable of being a match winner, but I think his bowling suddenly got found out in the last game. We got really taken apart right at the end of that match in the England. In England response, because obviously, New Zealand are lucky to be in the semi-final this year. They had to rely on other results going their way after losing to England, so they won't come into this full of confidence. On the other hand, usually a team always has to fail once, doesn't it, on the way through a tournament. It's very unusual for a team to remain unbeaten right the way through to the final. So could this be the day that South Africa slip up with T20? It's the glorious uncertainty of the format. You just don't know, and I agree with John that you just don't know until the teams turn up on the day this afternoon.
Satish, you've covered cricket on the Kolkata pitch and the Eden Gardens in your career. Do you think the dew, the overcast conditions, or the crowd will get on to two teams which usually don't play in front of that strong crowd?
Yes, it could be a bit unnerving, but having said that, most of these players now are exposed to this kind of crowd because they play in the IPL. So they are used to this crowd. And if I may have to add something which my other two panelists said, the biggest disadvantage New Zealand facing this tournament is they don't have somebody called Trent Boult. He used to get them the early wickets. He used to be the biggest suppers package for New Zealand, which they would capitalize on once that goes in. And batting, as we look at, the Kane Williamson factor is missing. So he could steady the ship in the once the two wickets go in, and then they can play around him. So without these two factors, New Zealand look a little vulnerable. And I'm sure looking at this team and the way South Africans play, again, we might think that they are on the roll and might lose a game in the last T20. India went with an unbeaten run. So we hope that South Africa continues that kind of a form. So I don't see that all these factors come into play, Sunil. And I still feel South Africa will be a very, very strong favorite unless or otherwise somebody comes up with a stunning show for New Zealand today.
Well, absolutely. We still have time for our discussion on this special bulletin show of cricket from your favorite news channel, NewsX. Let's look at the stats on the screen one by one. Let's see how things have panned out. Well, when you look at the team matchups of South Africa, things are very interesting and differently poised at this point of time. When you look at this is of course the sixth match, the first semi-final of the World Cup, and we are looking at power play. We've got the power play here. We've got the middle overs at 9.05, average is 91 for 3. We will look at team matchups of New Zealand. Guess what? What you're seeing on the screen is top of the list is Tim Seifert at 216 runs, 157 is the strike rate. Finn Allen is the second punt, but the third and the most important player batter who's going to be destructive and explosive is Rachin Ravindra, 115 runs, strike rate of 138. Well, having met him in Sri Lanka, Colombo, he was absolutely praises for his skipper, who also makes it to the list. Glenn Phillips is at 4, 176 runs, and Mike Mitchell Santner at number 5. What do you make up of these 5 batters who come in at the top of the order and have a long tail? Your views, John Nyombu?
Yeah, I think in the T20 game, a good start is very important. And those batters have managed to actually give New Zealand that sort of start so that your Mitchells can come up in the middle of the order and knock the ball around, and then set up everything. So it's important that they carry on from where they left off and give the team a high-flying start. So which means if they do give the team a high-flying start, which means that they would have done well against a very good South African pace attack, which will also give confidence to the rest of the batting order to say, okay, the top order guys have done it, so now it's our turn to go and consolidate in the middle, where we've seen that both teams are not really that strong in the middle in terms of their spin bowling options. I know South Africa have got Maharaj, but he's bar like the only one, and then they've got a few part-timers. So if they manage to get off to a flyer, they can negotiate Maharaj and maybe wait for that part timer, that fifth, sixth bowler that they can get at and then set it up to get a big total. So the key thing is how those gun blazers at the top start and set it up for the rest of the batting lineup.
Well, what you have on your screen right now, you can see the key bowlers. When you're talking of the matchup, the batters are destructive for New Zealand. They were lucky to be in the semi-finals, as our panelists say. But more importantly, let's look at the top three bowlers. Nigiri, he's got 12 wickets with an economy of 6.88. David Brooks, 12 wickets, 6.88. The average is 6.33 in the middle overs and 5.6 at the death. Then you have Bosch, 11 wickets. He's got the economy rate of 6.7. He's got middle phase of 6.2 and at the death 6.9. Marco Jansen is not a different story altogether, but at death he goes little expensive because of his lack of experience. But one bowler that causes a lot of problem to India was Keshav Maharaj. 5 wickets, 7.81 in the middle and the economy of 4 at the death. Economy of 4 at the death with a spinner. David Brooks, what is this combination that they've got? You've certainly said that this is the best bowling side South Africa has ever produced in T20. Do you still stick to your stand?
Well, I think it's hard to find a weak link, isn't it? I mean, I think Bosch has been the surprise package because, he's impressed everyone with his speed and, mental sort of calmness under pressure. Jansen, he may be the most expensive according to those stats, but he's a proven wicket taker, hasn't he? He's taken two fourthers or 3 fourthers in this tournament. So it's hard to find a weakness there. So in terms of, I think, you'd have to say, okay, there's no Pollock and Donald, but in terms of an all-round balanced attack, it looks pretty good to me.
Well, absolutely. It's quite an interesting matchup what you see on your screen right now. AKS Satish, key batters, Aiden Markram, 268 runs, strike rate of 175. Rickleton, 228 runs, strike rate of 171. And it doesn't stop here. The Quinton de Kock, the man who apparently retired from all or some formats of the game, is back, scoring at 171 runs with a strike rate of 135. Miller at 158 and Brevis 151. What do you think of this? When you keep the bowling aside, you've got to deal with the batters who have no respect for any bowlers and certainly very little respect for the leather, leather ball swinging inside or outside. Your views?
Yeah, true. That's the way all these batters, they play their game. In fact, to be honest, I would say Markram could be the slowest of them all, the names that you have put out, but he could come up with a solid knock. So I'm sure that's how it's been complementing Sunil. A good bowling lineup has been well complemented with strong batting, and they don't whinge a little so that the run rate comes down. They go always on the offensive, and that's how they keep the rival bowlers on the back foot. And then somehow one of them clicks, and then you find a way out. That's exactly what happened in the match when they lost a few wickets against India, but still Miller and Brevis played the same attacking knock that got India by surprise. So as long as you keep continuing the game that you play and trust your skills, I'm sure it's going to give you the rewards. So I'm sure they are not going to do anything different tomorrow. And after what we saw in Kolkata, the pitch, the bounce, it should help the South African batters more to play, trust the wicket and play through the line and hit their shots with ease.
Well, absolutely. You've said that the New Zealand guys have to deal with the fast bowlers as well. But at the same time, let's look at the pace versus spin split. And John Nyambu, happy to share that pace has been 51 wickets on this track over this last 6 matches. But the spinners have taken 30. Do you think spinners will come in a little too late, considering that they bowled 43% of the overs as compared to pace, which is 56? The result is still little skewed towards the pacers. Do you think spinners are yet to come to the party for this?
I think the composition of both teams is more or less pace bowling heavy. So as a spinner, you tend to play a different role. You tend to play that more like a defensive role. And yes, wickets will come, but not as frequent as how the pace bowlers have gone about. And irrespective of the wickets, we've seen that even on the wickets that were a bit slow, that were meant to favour the spin, the pace bowlers nowadays have gotten so adapt to adapting to those sort of wickets with their skill, with their cutters, with bowling wicket to wicket, and generally they've been very successful. So I think from a spinner's perspective, the both sets of spinners, your Maharajas and the captain of New Zealand, should be able to be content with that role that they're playing at the moment. But then again, it could change. It could be a day where spin could take the most wickets, but it's just the way the teams have been set up with their seamers, swingers, hit the deck bowlers, that the spinners have generally played like second fiddle. So it's just the way the team is balanced and the way the teams have gone about it, and it has worked. That's why both teams are at this stage of the game. So yeah, I think that's how it has been all along.
Absolutely. This is an interesting, important point here. We've got some slides on the television. I'm not going to bore our viewers with the statistics. Let me just ask David Brooks and his Gorilla Cricket fans, what do they think of the outcome of the match today as you represent Gorilla Cricket here? Just talk about it when it comes to the matchup today. Do you think who's going to dominate the first power play and who's going to win the match? Your views?
My money would be on South Africa. The odds won't be good. I think they will start the favourites according to the bookmakers and stuff. So I would back South Africa. I mean, don't forget they did inflict the biggest defeat on India in World Cup history. I don't think India have ever lost by as many as 76 runs before in a T20. So I'm going to go with South Africa. I'd say the one doubt I have in my mind is that every team slips up once in a tournament like this, and I'm not going to use the C word because I think South Africa have got over their
yes.
well over all that. I don't think it's a factor. They are the World Test Championship holders as well, so they've won a tournament just in the last year. And if ever there was a time when it requires cool heads, I think Adrian Markram's really been impressive, not just with his batting, but with his captaincy. I think he's a really good captain, probably the pick of the captains in the tournament so far. So yeah, that's my pick, and I can't speak for the rest of my Gorilla Cricket colleagues, but for my view, I think South Africa, given the history of where they come from and the performance in the tournament so far, firm favourites today.
Absolutely. Okay, Satish, very quickly before we look at the final toss going on to it, when you see it on your screen, you'll have the split of the bowling, all the power plays, death overs, everything. What do you make up of all the stats analysis? Who's going to be the firm favourite before I go on to John Nyembu?
With or without the stats, I would go with South Africa today. The confidence, the form that they have shown, and with New Zealand being the team that is in the rebuilding stage, I would go with South Africa. Sunil.
So we've got two South Africans in the house supporting. John Nyembu, what is your final take? Is it a 3-0 or are you going to stand up and say, no, New Zealand is going to do it?
I've got a soft spot for New Zealand.
Absolutely.
I never wish anything bad about New Zealand, even though everyone is saying South Africa has played well. But deep down in my heart, I certainly like New Zealand, and I think New Zealand will spring a surprise.
Well, 4 people on the screen, 2 are rooting for South Africa. 2 of them are for New Zealand, of course, having seen them play at the Colombo cricket ground that day. It was a fantastic performance of the New Zealand. Don't write them off. Even with the barest of the margins, they can still sneak back. Thank you, gentlemen. We had David Brooks, the man from Gorilla Cricket and the former ITV cricket head, AKS Satish, the former sports editor of Gulf News. We also had John Nyembu, the man who used to spin when he was playing in the Test cricket for Zimbabwe, but now is a coach and raising his 2 kids in England. Well, that's all we had time for. Don't go anywhere else. We'll be back after a short commercial break. See you soon.